Hey everybody, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be discussing why exactly Tesla is opening up their supercharging network and just their North American charging standard connector as a whole. This is becoming even more relevant with Ford and GM both announcing that they'll be using Tesla's superchargers and integrating Tesla's North American charging standard port onto their next generation of vehicles. Ford and GM have a lot to gain from this, since their customers will be able to access Tesla's superchargers, which have thousands of units across the United States and are generally more reliable than other charging networks. But although these benefits are pretty clear for Ford and GM, it's not quite as obvious what the advantage to this is for Tesla itself. So we're going to be taking a look at 3 good reasons why I think Tesla is doing this, as well as the main reason that I believe Tesla is truly doing this. The first reason is probably the most straightforward, which is that Tesla will be bringing in more charging revenue if they let more vehicles charge on their network. Additionally, non-Tesla EVs have to pay a slight premium over non-Tesla EVs to charge at the supercharging network, meaning Tesla would bring in even more revenue per vehicle from non-Tesla vehicles. Now, the next reason why I think Tesla is opening up their network is because they want to qualify for more government funding when it comes to building out new charging stations. At the moment, in order to qualify, you typically have to have the standard charging connector on your chargers. So Tesla's only option right now is essentially to build the chargers with a CCS connector, which is not the connector that's on the Tesla vehicles. So in order to qualify for this government funding, Tesla has pretty much had 2 options. One of those is to adopt the CCS connector, which is what's used by all non-Tesla EVs. And then the other was to open up their own proprietary charging connector, which they now call the North American Charging Standard. So that's pretty much the route they've ended up taking is opening up their own charging connector to try and make that one of the standards in North America, if not the only standard. Now, to my understanding, Tesla's North American charging standard is still not an actual real standard in North America as recognized by the government. So in order for Tesla to convince these regulators that their charging connector is a real valid standard that should qualify for government funding, it has to be something that's actually being used by more than just Tesla. It has to be adopted by other automakers. So ultimately, if Tesla opens up their charging network and their charging connector design, they'll be able to have a better shot at convincing regulators that it should be a real standard that qualifies for government funding. Now, the third reason I think Tesla is doing this is simply to just have better relations with other automakers. This is kind of a more minor, sort of reason here, and there's not a direct sort of financial, like revenue numbers that could be coming in for this, but it would probably benefit Tesla just to have better relations with these other automakers. For example, you already see the Ford CEO and GM, for example, speaking of Tesla in a more positive manner, definitely speaking of the supercharging network quite positively, as they're partnering with Tesla to use this network. Now, the fourth and final, and probably the most important reason why Tesla is opening up their network, in my opinion, is because in the future, Tesla's market share in the EV industry will not be anywhere close to where it is today. Other automakers will continue scaling the production on their electric vehicle models, and chances are Tesla's market share in the EV industry won't be as much as it is today. Once that happens, Tesla's charging connector would also not be as prominent as it is today if it stayed as a proprietary connector only used on Tesla's own vehicles. As an example, if Tesla's market share in the EV industry was at 30% in the US, then that would mean that about 70% of the market would be non-Tesla vehicles using the CCS connector. And if you kind of have a proportional amount of chargers to the number of vehicles there, then there would also be roughly 70% of the chargers using the CCS connector. And in order for Tesla owners to use all of those CCS chargers, they would have to use an adapter, or Tesla would have to move away from their Tesla connector and switch over to CCS. I imagine it would be pretty expensive for Tesla to switch over to CCS once they're already building millions of vehicles per year in the US alone and have possibly hundreds of thousands of chargers with that proprietary connector. So I think they're just trying to get ahead of the curve on this by opening up this charging network and connector today. I've got lots of other videos on EV charging, so be sure to check those out, and I'll see all of you in the next video.